That's right.
He told this amazing story yesterday of being in Delhi.
Yeah.
Were you around the dinner table when he was telling the story of being in Delhi and his wife got
yeah,
kicked out of India?
You just showed up there and she was there. Yeah.
Yeah, and a billion people in India, and she
internet.
stopped the taxi. Stop! That's my husband and my daughter.
Yeah.
I had my daughter on my back.
Yeah, things like that would happen.
Yeah, that would happen.
Well, and it still does. You don't. I mean, that's the thing is you don't like on iPhone. I don't know if you do this, but you can share your location with certain friends, and they can at any moment just look and see where you are. Like the internet will send a ping to your phone, and the phone will send the GPS signal back to the server, and you can just see where your friends are. And there's something kind of sweet about that. You don't even. And one of the things I like about Facebook is you don't even need to contact your friend.
No, you can be more passive.
Yeah, you can just like look in on their life. You can just be like, "How's my friend doing?"
Yeah.
Oh, they're posting about this, and the thing, and then you can like just see where they are. Or right now, my friend Jorge does that to me all the time.
Yeah.
He's just like, "Oh, you're at that wonderful restaurant. Da, 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 da. I love that place." Oh, and like as soon as I got here, I didn't tell him I was here, and he was like, "Say hi to the Lemurians."
Yeah.
It's an interesting way of interacting with our friends, but you don't need that, and magic still happens all the time.
Yeah.
Magic.
You run into people you don't see anymore. You had no idea you were going to see them. Yeah. Well, and you were saying something about the you were saying something about the place you do trimming where there's no Wi-Fi and there's no cell signal, and I'm like, oh, what a blessing!
It's amazing out there. I love it. Well, I mean, it's not just where I trim. I stay up there a lot of the time. It's my friend's place, and I have a little house there, and it's like it's totally off grid.
Off grid.
Nothing reaches.
That was one of the reasons I went to Brighton Bush.
Nothing reaches.
That was one of the great attractions. It was off grid.
Brighton Bush is off grid.
Yeah,
totally off grid.
They don't have Wi-Fi or
No, none.
And you generate your own. They generate their own electricity there. They
They
generate their own heat and they generate their own electricities. They're totally off the grid. And it's a worker-owned co-op. It's not like a.
I really want to go there.
Yeah. So when I heard that, it was like a pull to go.
That sounds really healing because Harbin had internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a coin out there, so it's still there.
Brighton Bush has a satellite phone and satellite internet, and they do not let any guests ever use it.
Oh, but they have it for themselves. Yeah.
Well, for a medical emergency, in case somebody gets sick, you have to be able to.
If you live there, there are certain hours of the day that you can access the internet, but it's not all day.
Right. That's good.
There are hours of the day, and they have a public computer, and you can go there with your device and put it on the Wi-Fi.
How did they enforce it where you were staying at the meditation place in Massachusetts? Because surely there were signals there.
Ah. They never, ever give the Wi-Fi out.
But you have your phone, though.
No. Well, you can. When I don't know when the last time you went to Goenka. But if you go to Goenka, they demand you give them your phone.
Yeah,
when you go to IMS...
They did, but it was before internet days when I was at Goenka last.
When you go to IMS, they encourage you to give them your phone. They do not demand it, but they do prohibit any cell phone use in your room.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, they have this whole attitude of you do whatever you do, it's your karma.
Yeah, yeah.
Equanimity. But they really encourage you not to use your phone. And when I was there at the 3-month retreat, there was this guy who, when he showed up, a couple of days after him showing up, some packages arrived for him. And then pretty much the entire retreat, packages arrived for him every day. And one night I was not sleeping and I walked out and I looked back up at the dorms and the light was on in his room and like all the other lights were off. And I was like, why is the light on in his room? And I just kind of stepped back and I looked at him and he was looking at his phone. He had kept his phone and he was sitting on his phone all day, all night. It was at that point I started paying attention to him. He wasn't coming to the sits. Yeah. He was just staying in his room on his phone, ordering shit off the internet and probably masturbating to porn. Who knows? You know, he put himself on retreat.
There's a guy doing cocaine on my Vipassana retreat.
Right.
So, yeah.
What? No.
Yeah,
seriously?
He came to get off the cocaine, but he ended up doing cocaine. Yeah.
He did it while he was there.
Yeah, he was always in the meditation. Always.
I
was sitting next to him.
Oh my God!
I read a book by.
I was like, whoa, this is crazy. You know?
I read a book by Joseph Goldstein.
I don't know, because he wanted to give up, but it's like because
they teach you.
Because an addict is an addict. I mean that's kind of a silly question. I mean, I have a friend who takes people through Ibogaine treatments to get off of heroin. Somebody came and did Ibogaine and then decided he wanted to do heroin while he's on Ibogaine, went to the bathroom and died in his house.
Oh my God.
So, an addict is an addict. I mean, they'll find any excuse they can, or they'll play games with their heads and they'll totally go back.
Delusion allows you to justify anything. I mean, that's the magic of delusion.
It's the nature of addiction.
But Joseph Goldstein said in the book, one of his books that I read on the retreat, where he said, a lot of people think that the definition of freedom is having whatever you want whenever you want it.
Yeah.
That's addiction.
It's called the tyranny of choice as well.
Yeah, it's addiction.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such an interesting definition for
Addiction,
addiction
yeah.
is having whatever you want whenever you want it.
Yeah.
It's addiction.
It is.
And that we're all addicted to samsara.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we all have this idea that somehow we're going to win or that we're going to get away with it. And there's no winning at samsara, and there's no getting away with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like there's a God that's punishing you. It's just that you're feeding your own destruction all the time. And
Yeah.
so it is interesting that. So I got to witness not only him, but there was a monk who was there on a full scholarship, a Tibetan monk but he was a crazy. You could tell from looking at him, he had been a junkie, and he had his phone the whole time as well. And it was interesting for me because I had to feel my anger at them. I was so angry, but yet I couldn't talk to them because it was a silent retreat, and I didn't want to tell on them, you know?
Yeah.
I just wanted, so I had to like sit there day after day and feel the anger until I could make peace with it. And then once I had made peace with it, one of my teachers asked me about, he made a reference to one of the guys that I knew his name because I kind of was, you know, being obsessive and bored. So I tracked him until I found his name around the silent meditation retreat. And he was like, oh yeah, one of the guys, he hasn't been showing up at the meeting. So he hadn't been coming to the hall. He hadn't been coming to the teacher
But he's
meetings.
still paying for it all. Yeah.
Yeah, or he was there on a scholarship. Who knows? I didn't ask that. But I said, well, you know, I'm in the same hall as him, and I was walking around late at night, and I saw him on his phone, and he was like, oh, that's very good information. Thank you for giving me that information. You know, so I was like,
You snitch.
I snitched, and I ended up snitching on both of them, and their behavior changed right after that.
Karma police.
The big chubby one who was ordering stuff off the internet all the time,
Yeah.
which is probably why I was stalking him, he'd left. He left early.
Yeah.
Something happened that triggered him into left, and the junkie / Tibetan monk, he all of a sudden started showing up to all the sits.
Okay.
And he asked a question at that point. You raise your hand and ask a question, a very small window of time in the day, and he had asked something about addiction. And when he spoke, I could hear in just the way his voice sounded that he had been an alcoholic and a junkie. Like that he had no teeth, and so this anger all of a sudden just melted into all this suffering
But he
this
wasn't
man's
Tibetan.
had. No, he was just some white dude who'd
Okay.
gotten
Because, you know,
ordained as a
our
Tibetan
local
monk.
Rinpoche, Tibetan Rinpoche in Monterey, he loves his iPhone. Every time there's a photograph, he wants to get in the picture. It's like
He's actually Tibetan though.
yeah, it's really funny.
And
He's like a kid.
Sara, the monks, all the monks that I've seen there, just like walking with a selfie stick, almost falling off the cliff, you know.
No, it's like with Samsara.
Samsara, it's so fun, and that's, you know, I think that like Facebook and iPhones and so on and so forth, it's just the elaboration of samsara.
Yeah.
They say this is the golden age of Buddhism because more people know about it than ever before.
Yeah,
But samsara is also just cleverer now.
yeah, it's a polarity that's
Yeah.
like it's gained more.
We have more dharma, we have more samsara. It's just
That's in William Butler Yeats's poem, "Turning and turning in the widening gyre.
Oh yes,
The falcon cannot hear the falcon. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold."
that's a wonderful. line.
Yeah, but so the best and the worst are getting farther apart. The best is getting better, and the worst is getting worse, and it's polarizing.
That's the nature of what we have to experience.
Second Coming is called the Second Coming.
that's the name of the poem. Well, one of the things that I thought of while you were describing the red, blue, green
beast?
thing that you haven't said yet that I really felt while you were saying it this time is that red and blue are polarized. So they're
Yeah.
bipolar. They're these
Yeah.
extreme
Exactly.
resonances
Yeah. Green
thing,
is
and
in the
green is
middle.
coming into balance because the
Balance.
poles will never. The poles are interesting to explore, but they're never going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
The balance does.
So the choice on the ballot has always been you can have this bad thing or this bad thing, the lesser of two evils, you know. And I don't want that. I want to give a choice, a real choice. And you hear people saying, I want none of the above, you know. So I'm going to be Mr. None of the above.
So I'd like to ask you about the Green Party.
Sure.
Do you feel? I mean, do you see some faults in the Green Party?
The fault would be anger. And the solution is to alchemically transform anger to compassion. And
Do you
the
feel
way-
Jill Stein's doing a? You know, do you think she's the right kind
She's
of?
hey, I like Jill Stein.
She's very intelligent. But
Jill Stein will stay in
some
that
people
room
find
as
her-
my honored guest.
But some people, there's people I know who are the Green, but they're kind of critical of her. I don't, you know, I haven't looked into it enough. But anyways, as a party as a whole, do you feel it's got like a potential to really?
It's
kinda
just potential. It's sheer potential. There's
Yeah.
nothing else but potential.
Yeah.
It has. It's in. I talked to Jill Stein's campaign manager yesterday about my candidacy, and he said, "Don't expect a lot from us because we're not the Democrats."
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
He says
We don't have a gigantic corporate machine behind us.
Yeah,
yeah.
That's hundreds of years old.
They provide kind of
Framework.
a framework and a container,
And there's
and
room for creativity and play within that.
and that's exactly what's going to happen. But Jill Stein will be an honored guest in that place. Actually, because I can resonate with her. She's vegan. She's this. She's that. We're gonna get
She
along.
went to Standing Rock and did some graffiti on some of
Did she?
on some of the bulldozers. Yeah, it's really cool. There was a warrant out for her arrest. I thought that was really cool.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know that.
She was
But
like,
we're
"No, they
Standing Rock people. We're standing for Standing Rock.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so.
We got one big Standing Rock right here.
Yeah, we got the Standing Rock.
Yeah.
You know what thing? Like last year, I visited the U.S. for the first time.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was just before Trump was elected. This time I came and I was expecting to have a great change because everyone was like, all the Facebook was full of it, all the news was full of it. So I don't really feel like life is very different here, but the way people think about reality or like the way like they see themselves acting or changing stuff, this is really different. And
It's
this is,
really
I think, what you're talking about, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
Because people are kind of waking up and saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like,
They're waking up.
Okay, democracy is okay, but I did not choose this guy, and he's a like.
Monster.
He has the stench of fascism.
Yes, he
The
does.
stench of fascism.
And no one
That's the
believed that
danger.
the US
kinda
is going to
good.
get to this kind of stage, and people are starting to think, okay, what am I doing, here to kind of.
No, he's
What
a
am-
gift.
what
He's
am
a
I
gift. He's
promoting?
actually a lot of people
He's
say
a gift.
He's a gift.
He's a
because,
gift.
like Hillary or whatever, it would have been more like Prozac
Yeah.
for liberals.
Yeah,
I mean,
Prozac.
That's the change I see.
like,
I mean,
wake
more
up,
than the
people.
lifestyle or anything, the change in like amongst the people I know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see like how life really changed except for the kind of new thinking.
So it's been kind of
new-
positive in a way, really.
Yeah.
I think I think overall,
I agree.
Well,
It's overall. It's
but
the
it's
bull in the
definitely
china
like
shop. He's the bull in the china shop.
Yeah,
Some of that china had to get broken.
yeah, absolutely. He's a wrecking ball for the.
He's a wrecking ball.
Well, and a lot of people have made that joke where he has made America great again because now there's all these grassroots movements and all these like people coming together and
Yeah.
like really putting energy into change and like it's like really it's crunch time. We have to fucking like step up and align and
And you're gonna see a lot
integrate.
more kinds of people running for president now. Like you're gonna see, I don't know, like someone like Oprah, someone like that, because if
Oprah, yeah.
I mean, but
That'd be
but
amazing.
if Trump can do it, they're going to say, well, why can't we do it?
Yeah.
So you're going to see a lot of
Exactly.
people throwing their
Well,
hats in the
also,
ring.
what's
So
his
you
name?
get
Mark
a lot
Zuckerberg.
Huh?
Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh, is he on the? Is he,
He's
is he
talking
in the
about it.
running?
Yeah,
Wow.
if Trump can do it,
Yeah.
Mark Zuckerberg can do it.
Yeah, 'cause
Mark
Trump's not gonna make
Zuckerberg
a
is really
business
is a billionaire. We don't know that Trump is.
Yeah.
No, he's a complete
Yeah.
smoke and mirror, whatever. I'm this. and that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also really interesting, regardless of like one of the things that's also useful about Trump is that he ran on the Republican ticket, so we can call him the bad guy really easily. There's
Yeah.
so many easy ways to call him the bad guy.
Yeah.
Having somebody like Zuckerberg, I mean, it's easy to point fingers at him and say he's the bad guy, but like literally people that are completely outside of those kind of control machines, and like Facebook is its own control mechanism.
Yeah.
It's very different than the old school control mechanisms. Like, what if we had like Elon Musk for president? Like, imagine that kind of
That'd be
weird.
wonderful. Yeah, we're all in a virtual
But
reality
he's
situation.
also, Elon Musk I love. I think he's wonderful, but he's definitely also one of those people that could be a tyrannical dictator, being like, no, we will all get off of coal. No, we will all go to Mars. Like he would.
Well,
Like
there's a fear
He's
that,
doing his job.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
got
there's
his
a fear-
job, and he's doing it.
California, they're talking about succeeding from the United States. What do you think about that, actually? I want to ask you that really quick. About California separating from the United States?
Well,
independence?
these things will happen naturally. Like
Yeah.
we're talking about the state of Jefferson. Do you know this is
No,
the
I know
state
that
of
we're in
Jefferson?
Jefferson here,
This
Ashland.
state is Ashland is
Yeah.
we're our own state too. But the state of Jefferson is a state of mind.
Exactly.
And the
It's not
point
a
of
place,
the
it's a state of
point
mind.
is to be administrators. The purpose of these divisions is not to kill people in wars. The purpose of these divisions is to administrate large masses of people so that the greatest good for the greatest number. So whatever system is going to do I'm always going to say the greatest good for the greatest number.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever works. Pragmatism is very American.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of separation of church and state, that might be the third thing.
Well, you kept saying separate church and state, but nowhere, in no other, most of the countries though, you don't hear, God being evoked or like, I'm on a mission from God as you do in American politics.
Oh, in
like,
Saudi Arabia you do.
What-
In Israel,
No,
go to
no,
Israel.
Okay, but I'm talking about most like European democracies.
Not now.
Yeah, they don't talk.
Not
they don't hear,
now.
like, no, I mean George Bush.
Because they had 2 bloody wars on their land, and they've paid the price for that.
But I
They
mean,
know
separation of church and state is kind of like it's not really. In some ways, it's less separate here than it is in other countries in Europe.
Well, it's loosey goosey.
No. What
it's
I said.
non-committal.
Be very clear about what I said. I
Yeah.
said it's our contribution to world political thought.
Right.
This is a contribution. It's,
Yeah.
before we came along, that wasn't on the table. Then we come along and we say separation of church and state. That is a new concept for the whole world to.
And
to
we're
understand.
still doing it loosely. We're still practicing it.
Yeah.
It's a
It's an
practice.
experiment.
But
Yeah.
America's
it
an
gets,
experiment.
But the kind of like God mission gets in there more in politics here than it does.
Did in the past. People could invoke God, country, and apple pie, and
Yeah.
expect to get elected. And now with the social media and everything, it's going to be scattered. It's going to be different.
Yeah.
And I see it now as just being going from instinct to intellect to intuition.
But going back to the California separating, I know people who are against it because they're afraid of this Silicon Valley mindset that they're afraid that it would be even more, it'll become even more of a brave new world or more of a kind of like a totalitarian situation if we're run by the people who control.
Talk about the two Earths thing. Have you the
Social,
well, there's
the internet.
is this something he's referenced a few times in this last week?
The Hopi prophecy is that we're splitting, and you can see it into two Earths. The new Earth is going to be those people who ascend and who move with this. But because we have free will, not everybody has to. If they can choose to stay in the old paradigm, they can choose that.
Greed.
Martian war,
Yeah.
Separation, duality. They can choose that. So the Hopi prophecy was that that there'll be in our timelines will separate, and the people who want to continue with that will go to another planet and keep it up. Gaia herself, our Mother Earth, is ascending. We have held back with the Lemurians and Atlantis and everything. Because of our mistakes, we've held her back from ascending, like a loving mother who waits for her children. She's been waiting for her children to catch up.
Yeah.
Now this loving mother is saying, the train is leaving the station. It's my time now to ascend to the next level, and my dear children can come with me if they so choose. But if they don't choose that, they're not coming.
So on a practical level, does that look like the war machine moving to Mars or some other solar system? Or does it look like a dimensional split where there's this Earth over here and this Earth over here?
Dimensional split.
Dimensional
I think
split.
It's a dimensional split. And this was the Hopi prophecy. And you can feel it, you can see it when you're dealing with people. And there's another book called The Three Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth by Dolores Cannon. Do you know that? Dolores Cannon was a hypnotherapist, and she specialized in hypnotizing people to go back to their past lives. Then she discovered there were people who had no past lives. And she said, wait a minute, what is this? How can someone have no past life? And the answer was that they had come to Earth for the specific purpose of participating in what's going on here, which is the
They had no
creation
past Earth life.
Pardon?
They didn't have a past life.
They had no past life on Earth.
Yeah.
So, and they also, they often went to her because they felt disoriented. They got here and they said, holy shit, what is this place? Nothing makes sense here, and everybody's crazy here, and I don't like it, I want to go home. And so she discovered, well, the home was not on this Earth. I'm a person I'm an old soul. I've been in all of the cultures. When I went to the British Museum, and I went through the British Museum, and each they have an India room, and a China room, and a Persia room, and a this room, and a that room. Every time I walked into the room, I felt my past lives from those cultures. So I'm a planetary citizen in the sense that I really know this planet. Because I've lived in everywhere. I've been Chinese, I've been Indian, I've been Jewish.
That's why you became a foreign diplomat. Yeah.
That's part of why.
Yeah,
That's part of why I did it.
Prepared for it.
To manifest that, and that's why I'm so comfortable. This planet is my home. Everywhere I go, I'm home. Yeah, but Mount Shasta especially. This is my home right here. This is my base, and I have a home in India. All you guys are invited to come visit my house in India.
Where?
It's in Dharamsala.
Really? In McLeod Gardens or in?
No. It's 11 kilometers east of Dharamsala.
In Nadi?
No, it's toward Pathankot.
Pathankot.
Toward Pathankot. If this is Dharamsala and this is McLeod Ganj, this is where we
Okay,
are.
good. Yeah, because Nadi's the other way, west. You're right.
Yeah.
I stayed in Nadi for 3 months. Lived in with the white buffalo in a little barn there. It's really cool. Yeah, I was upstairs. The white buffalo were downstairs.
Kept you warm.
I drink their milk every day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you milk them yourself?
No, I didn't milk them myself. I drink their milk. But we were talking about the goat. I fell in love with their goats, and then one day they said, "Oh, do you want to come up to the top of the mountain? We're taking the goat." I didn't know. They didn't tell me it was going to happen, but I kind of had a weird. I said, "No, I don't want to go." Some other girl I know from another family, she went up there, and they basically had a mass goat slaughter. So they're vegans, vegetarians all year round, except for this one time a year where they go and slaughter goats. And then they came out home that night and said, "Would you like some goat meat?" And I felt really sick because I've been loving these goats every day. Yeah.
But this is the split that we're having.
Yeah.
The people who want to slaughter goats can go to some other planet where they can slaughter goats,
exactly.
and the people who don't will stay on the new Earth.
Yeah.
And ascend.
You're right. I mean, that's what this life is all about. It's all about deciding what we want for the next world and getting that fine tuned, and so then we can co-create that.
Right.
And even though it seems like it's fraught with how should I say, just despair and like it's never going to get right. But it's not like that at all.
It isn't.
No,
It's
like
not.
It's not.
There's
Things are
no.
not. It's not like
It's perfect.
Exactly. It's like bringing.
It's
yeah.
all perfect.
It's all part of the
just
learning,
perfect
like
as
you
it
said,
is.
The Nike swoosh. It's a great analogy.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Victory.
Exactly. But just
It's
because it starts.
The learning curve
things
goes. The learning curve dips before it rises. I used to teach computer programming in the 70s.
Yeah, I know. You told me that.
Yeah, and the first thing I did was I drew a picture on the board of the learning curve.
Yeah.
Because I was teaching adults,
Yeah.
and to teach adults is different than children. The adults are afraid. They're afraid to touch the computer because they think they'll break it and it's a very expensive machine. Kids will just jump right in and say, oh, what does this button do? What does this button do? But adults will hold back. So I'd always start by drawing the learning curve. I said the learning curve dips before it rises. When you start learning anything new, you feel less competent than you were before. But after you master the new skill, then your sense of competency is higher. So it looks like the Nike curve. It goes down first and then it comes up.
It broadens.
So are we going to interview you now?
Yeah, yeah. That was just our little informal talk session.